Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here. I'm back at Clear Shift, and it is a very rainy, cloudy day today, and just stopped raining. I hope it's gonna hold up until I'm done with this video. But what we're gonna do in this video is have a look at this beautiful new Ford Expedition Timberline trim, meaning that this is the off-road package. Personally, my favorite package. I think it looks fantastic. We do have a little bit of chrome here on some weird places. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but the front end is all blacked out. We're going to have a look at that, the side, the rear, the interior, and then we're taking this for a drive. Let's have a look at some of the basic specs for this Ford Expedition Timberline. You do have an EcoBoost 3.5 liter V6, 10-speed automatic, all-wheel drive, 440 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 in this house on wheels is done in 5.3 seconds. Fuel economy though, so it's a 16 city, 19 highway, and the price for this is $75,721. Alright guys, starting with the front end design of the Ford Expedition Timberline. What I love about the front end here is that pretty much everything is blacked out. If you have different trims, you're going to have these pieces being chrome, but in this case it's all matte black. And I do love the refresh that they did of the Ford Expedition in, I think it was 2022, when they added these beautiful C-shaped daytime run lights going around here. You can see that we have the indicator light sitting right here. Pretty interesting location for the indicator light itself. Here in between these two bars, you do have the full LED headlights. Also a unique position for them, being rather thin for this type of vehicle. Now there's really not a lot in the front end that I would like to change. When I look at it, it looks structured. It looks like the Big Brother with a lot of horizontal lines, with some vertical lines as well. And down here you have the fog lights, and you also have a functional air vent right here underneath it. I also like these orange accents. This is called the active orange that we have going all around this car. You might think that this car is actually black, but it has this very dark green tone to it that also comes back in the interior in a very cool way. Now, this being the off-road package, that means that you have different wheels and tires. Gonna have a look at that in just a second. You also have a proper metal skid plate underneath, and these skid plates were pretty much taken from the Ford F-150 Raptor and put onto the Expedition, so it does serve a very important purpose. The ground clearance here is the highest in this segment. You get 10.6 inches of ground clearance, and just looking at it from the view you're looking at it right now, I think it has a very clear identity in the front face. And one detail I love that they did in the front face, they could have gone with the regular blue oval for the Ford, but in this case they decided to black that logo out as well, and I think it looks so much better to have it black. You still have a little bit of chrome around it, but that's just traditional Ford. Much rather have it be black than the regular blue oval in the center. Coming around to the side view of this beast, we have a chrome trim piece that goes right here underneath the greenhouse, and I'm not sure why they decided to make this piece chrome when everything else on the car is blacked out. Not sure if I like that or not. If I want to make that black, probably want to have that be at least gloss black. It doesn't have to be matte black. But other than that, we do have a very strong shoulder line, just like we should have in this type of SUV. You also have body color door handles, and when it comes to these wheels and tires, you have 18-inch wheels wrapped in 33-inch all-terrain tires, and I think they look fantastic. It would be interesting to see what this would look like if we, just for fun, just added 35-inch wheels and 35-inch tires onto this package. A couple of details that I like about this type of proportions of SUV is that we have a very strong identity for this type of package, and we also have a very strong line flow. As I said, this line right here going from the very corner of the front headlights into the corner of the taillights, just like we want. And we also have this lower section right here cutting into the body and into the bumper, following the same line and cutting through the rear axle. I think that's beautifully done. And then we have this big, massive side step that is specific for the Timberline trim, and it makes it a lot easier to go in and out, because you still have this 10.6-inch ground clearance that you need to get over to get into the vehicle. Some more pretty interesting details about this specific trim. This being the off-road package, I would assume they would add some plastic stuff going around the wheel arches here, but everything on the side is body colored, and I think it adds a little bit more sportiness to this design rather than having it be a more off-road looking with the plastic cladding going around the wheel arches. It would suit this car to have either way, but I actually prefer it without the black plastic going around the wheel arches. And then we have these wheels. I do like these wheels in black. I think they look great. Usually, as you know, I'm not a huge fan of black wheels because it hides the design and the spokes of the wheels themselves. But in this case, this being the off-road package, I like the wheels with these Goodyear Wrangler tires. It just completes the overall off-road feel of this car. Some more details on the Timberline trim is you get these black roof rails up here. You also have this specific badge that says Timberline, and then you have 3 mountain tops here, looking very unique for this specific trim. And you also have that in the rear as well. So let's turn around and have a look at the rear design of this truck. Coming around to the rear end of the Expedition Timberline, what I love here is that they added some of that active orange contrast color in the lettering of the Expedition. So it sits embossed in 2 different layers, the bottom layer being this orange and the top layer being the black. I really like the look of this. There are a couple of changes that I would like to do here in the back, and the first one being to just remove this. I know there's not a lot of space up here for this wiper to be hidden up there, but I guess it works to have it down here as well. I'm not sure, but I want to have a cleaner look. Then I would definitely want to hide this piece here. We still have the black Ford badge, but have a look at the chrome trim that goes from the shoulder line and then wraps all around the rear end. In some way, I think it actually suits to have a little bit, just a splash of chrome like we have in this specific trim level, and maybe not make that black, just to have some contrast with this very dark exterior color. Looking at these taillights, what I wish Ford would have done here is to just have this be LED. I can see the light bulb blinking in there, and in this price range, in this level of SUV, I definitely want to have that be LED. But overall, the design, the outline of the taillight looks very clean, and as I said, I like that the shoulder line connects with the very corner of the taillight in the side. Moving further down, you do have some silver trim down here in the diffuser. Nothing too aggressive. This is not a sport SUV. You also have the dual exhaust hidden. They stick out right here. Maybe something to play around with there to have it maybe be dual exhaust or even quad exhaust, because we do have a big 3.5 liter V6 up front. So it would look nice to see the exhaust pipes instead of having it sticking down right there. Then we have the reflector light here, as you can see, integrated in the silver piece at the bottom. Overall, a very clean design and a very architectural approach to this design, just like it would be expected in this size of vehicle. Now, the tailgate of the Expedition is pretty unique because you have a top opening. If you just want to open this part, you can do that. Hit the button down here. Or if you want to open up the whole thing, you just open it up just like you would in a regular SUV, pressing the button up there and everything will open up, and you have a huge amount of space in here, which we're going to have a look at in a second, specifically when you fold down the rear seats. Welcome to the interior of the new Ford Expedition Timberline. Let's fire this up. We have a 12.5-inch gauge cluster, which sits nicely under this housing. And look over here, this is taken, I think, it looks like it's straight from the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and this is a 15.5-inch vertically integrated infotainment screen. And I'm not sure if I like this integration of the screen, because it sticks up in a weird way here. It feels like we could have just maybe, I don't know, integrated a little bit better and not have this top part stick out too much above this piece. But you do get a 15.5-inch screen, so I mean, if you gotta fit that somehow, I guess you're gonna have to have pieces sticking out. But I do like the features that we have in here. If we go into vehicle, for example, and you go into camera, you have all bunch of cameras here. The resolution, not the best resolution. You have a 360 camera, and you have a rear view camera front as well. As I said, not the best resolution, but it's definitely going to help you avoid the big obstacles that you need to avoid when you're reversing and parking and going off-road in this thing. Then you have zone lighting, so you can turn on the lights around the car, both the front, the side, the rear, all around the car. And I think that's a very, very cool feature on this SUV. Specifically, if you're going camping and it's completely dark out, you want to see a little bit what's around you and where to set up the camp, I think this is a very useful feature to have. One detail though, as always, is I would like to change here. If you want to change the climate settings, you need to go into the software here and do that inside with the touch pads. You do have 3 settings of cooled seats, and you also have 3 settings of heated seats for both the driver and the passenger side, and everything else, the heated steering wheel and all the fan speed and all this is all controlled within the software itself. One detail that I think is really cool though on the screen is how they implemented or installed this volume dial, because it sits on top of the screen, and it's something that I've never seen before except for in the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and I thought it was such a cool design feature because it feels like it's floating on top of the screen itself, and then you have a piece of screen within this circle itself. So I wish you had more dials like this down here, for example for the temperature control and the fan speed and the volume. So if we had 3 of these dials down here, I think that would be even better than what we have right now. To the sides of this screen, you do have some very, very conventional vents, and I do like that. Very easy to adjust. You can see the fins moving, so you know exactly where the air is coming. You have the trail brake or the trail controls right here in this dial, the trail brake even further down, and underneath the screen you have the traction control on and off, and you also have the hazard lights. You have a 12-volt outlet here, cigarette outlet, and you have 2 different glove compartments, one up top as you can see right here, the smaller one, then you have the big one downstairs. I do like this contrast stitching because the orange accents that we have on the outside, I always want to see some of the color popping into the exterior, and I love these dark green interior that we have here in contrast with this active orange stitching and this piece right here above the glove box. It just looks nice and adds some splash to the otherwise pretty dark interior. Moving further down here, let's see what we have underneath this slider here. You have a slider. When that opens up, you do have so underneath here you do have the wireless charging, and you do have a normal USB and a USB-C. And moving further along the center console, you do have the drive select, parking, reverse, neutral drive. You have the rear locker, so this one comes with rear lockers, and you have the drive mode selector here. And these graphics just look absolutely fantastic. It looks almost like a video game when you go through these, and I'm a huge fan of this interface that we have here. You also have the selector for the gearbox, 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, or 4-wheel drive auto. You have the hill descent control and the parking assist button right here. To the right side of all these controls and dials here, you do have 2 big cup holders with a lid for it, nothing really special. You have some of this chrome creeping into the interior as well, and that's what I think maybe it suits this car, because we have it in such few places on the exterior, and we also have them in very few places in the interior. So I think I would actually keep the chrome in this case, and that I rarely say that, but in this case I think it actually works. Underneath this big armrest, you do have a huge, absolutely massive storage compartment, and you also have this organizer tray which you can take out and clean whenever you want to, looking fantastic. And you also have a 12-volt cigarette outlet here. No USBs though, as far as I can tell, which is fine because you have them down here, but it would be nice to have a couple more inside this storage compartment. The armrest itself looked pretty plain, but we do have the contrast stitching going all along here, the center into the armrest, and I do like this green leather. It just looks nice, and it reminds me of the wilderness that you're about to head out to in this expedition. And you also have 2 cup holders back here for the passengers. Moving on to the steering wheel here, very nicely done. We do have some of this dark matter gray. I thought the exterior looked a little green when I was doing the outside filming of this, because in this light I don't know what it is, but it has this green hue to it, but it is actually called dark matter gray, and that same color comes back in the lower part of the steering wheel. To the right side, on the right spoke, you do have the controls for the maps that you have in the gauge cluster. You can toggle between that and figure out the configuration that you want specifically for the gauge cluster. On the left side, you do have the controls for the cruise control and also the volume buttons. To the left of the steering wheel, we have another vent, the same vent that we have on the passenger side over there. And further down, you do have the opening for the tailgate, and you can fold down the headrests of the back seat here as well, and all the controls for all the lighting settings is down here just below that. One feature that I wish a lot of more cars had is the power adjustable position of the pedals, because you can really get into your perfect driving position here with the power adjustable steering wheel, and of course the power adjustable seats, and in addition to the power adjustable pedals. It just makes sense. There's no way you're gonna be uncomfortable driving this car. Moving along to the doors, it's a very industrial horizontal styling of the doors, which I like on these type of cars. I think they should have less styling when it's a big car like this, and it looks nice. You do have some of that orange stitching at the top. You also have some of that green leather for the where you're gonna have your arm resting on top of, and some perforated pieces for the speakers. Down low, it's just a single slot with a big compartment that's separated by a couple of cup holders, and that's about it for the doors. Functional, and it still looks very, very good. Up top, have a look at this massive sunroof that we have up top. It goes all the way back to the very far headrests of the passenger seats. So it's a huge one, but I'm gonna keep this closed because it might start to rain soon, and I don't want it to leak in this beautiful interior. With that said, we talked about the front end of the interior. Let's jump into the captain seats in the back and see how the space is back there. All right, jumping in to the second row, and these are captain's chairs, meaning that you do have them separated. You also have this very thick and nice and soft armrest in the middle. This is one of these vehicles that you just can't wait to go on an adventure in, and you know that no matter where you sit in the car, you're always going to be super comfortable. You do have a big pocket up front, and down here you do have the climate control settings for the second row, in addition to a house outlet and a couple of USB ports. And you also have a bit of a storage compartment in the middle and a cigarette outlet. Overall, it's a beautiful rear seat, and you have a ton of space back here. Now I'm gonna attempt to climb into the third row seat, and hopefully you can see the space back here. Just want to get a feel of how it feels to sit all the way in the back. So I'm in the third row now. You probably can't see anything because of the camera, but what we have down here is you have the buttons to fold the second row seat. You also have a couple of USB ports, and overall I'm very surprised by the headroom back here. I also have a couple of cup holders and everything I need to be comfortable back here for, I would say, a pretty long road trip. All right guys, setting off in the 2023 Ford Expedition Timberline, and this, as I said, this is my favorite trim for the Expedition. I think this is what a big SUV should have, be able to go off-road, because I never really understood the point of having an SUV, big SUV with a ground clearance, and then you have 22s on it like other Expeditions come with. This just, for me personally, makes more sense. So what do we have under the hood? We have an EcoBoost 3.5 liter V6. You can't get this with a V8, but I don't think that's a problem though, because the power under here, 440 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque, connected to a 10-speed automatic, 0 to 60, 5.3 seconds in this thing, and it really goes. When you look at this from the outside, this being the off-road spec, you wouldn't think that it's a 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, but it does. And this through V6 up front is really powerful, and that's why I don't think a V8, except for the noise maybe, I don't think it's really necessary in this specific car. So it's connected to a 10-speed automatic, and it's a super smooth 10-speed. I have it in sport now, because why not? I'm not gonna take it off-road. I just wanna see how this can handle with this big of a package. I think Ford just did a fantastic job updating the Expedition when it comes to the exterior styling and the interior as well. The only thing though, having a 15.5 inch in a vertical format like this, it just doesn't work for me. I wish that this infotainment screen was a little better integrated than what we have here. But again, the bigger screens you're starting to put into cars, it's getting very difficult to figure out how you're supposed to integrate them well into an otherwise pretty organic looking dash. So this is what happens. You have this piece sticking out. It's not a big deal, but it could have been done a little better. Probably just make the screen smaller. That would have worked for me. This V6 sounds really good. I don't mind it at all being just a V6. I think it's totally fine for this package. And in sport mode, it also revs a little higher. And right now I'm sitting at 3,500 or 3,000 RPM. And if I want to floor it at that point, it's definitely going to pick it up and go. Another detail that I wish we had in this Expedition is a display for the rear view mirror that we have in the center. I would expect it in this type of vehicle, but we just have a normal standard mirror, and it's fine because there's not really a lot covering it up, so I can clearly see what's behind me still, but it still would be cool to have a widescreen camera mounted there. All right, so I'm gonna make a U-turn now and then floor it just to see what we get out of this beast. I like this powertrain a lot, the 10-speed with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6. I think it works perfectly for this type of package, and having it in sport is actually pretty fun to drive. This is a big SUV that I think that ticks a lot of boxes. If you want to go off-road, you can put it in off-road mode, you can lock the rear diffs, and you can definitely get this to wherever you want to go specifically, even though it is a bit of a challenging terrain. And if you want to have some fun, just put it in sport mode and off you go. You have a pretty sporty SUV, even with these 33-inch off-road tires. I do really like this idea of zone lighting. So just put on the lights, and you can light up whatever is around you 360. And as I said, if you go camping, I think that's just a fantastic feature that I don't think I've seen in any other car. Just to have a look, if it's dark out, you go up to the camp spot and you want to have a feel for what's around you, just turn on the 360 lights of this thing. You can shine up everything around you. I definitely like how high it stays up in the revs if you have it in sport. But let's go into, let's see what we got here. Let's go into Eco and just feel what that feels like compared to sport. So Eco doesn't really feel much of a difference between sport. It might just shift a little sooner, and it also goes into two-wheel drive instead of four-wheel drive auto that you have in sport. So I think that has to do with some fuel economy savings, but other than that, it feels still pretty lively even in Eco, which is fine. It's so comfortable too. These roads are just not good, and you barely feel any bumps at all in the suspension, specifically when you have these 33-inch tires. They just eat up every single imperfection that you have in the roads in a very comfortable way. Overall, I like this Expedition, and as I said, this is definitely the trim that I would personally go for. I think this is what this Expedition is supposed to be like, a big off-roader. Thanks to ClearShift here in Denver for providing this vehicle for me to review for you guys today. If you're interested in this vehicle or any other vehicle that you have here on the lot, make sure you go to clearshift.com. I'm going to link that down in the description. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.